Weird sciencey facts boggle my mind. Don't look up, because as it turns out, we won't need Bruce Willis or a team of geriatric space cowboys to save us from our collision course with Armageddon as a result of deep impact. For much of human civilization, the fear of Earth-ending asteroids or catastrophic comets doing us like the dinosaurs has been a thought that's loomed over humanity's head. Literally. It's been the subject matter of countless disaster movies and doomsday documentaries, and while thankfully, throughout all of human existence, we have not had a credible threat of an extraterrestrial extinction rock hitting reset on us, we still know it can and has happened in the past. And for centuries, humanity would have been able to see our demise from the skies coming from a long ways away, but for the vast majority of human existence, we would have been absolutely powerless to stop it. In fact, it wasn't until the 1960s and 70s that we even theoretically had the technology to influence the trajectory of a big-ass asteroid. But even then, as we were building pretty capable nukes and rockets, we had no contingency plan. We didn't know how we would use these technologies in the event of a potential cataclysmic collision, and if the way we did use them would even be effective, which is a tad bit unnerving to say the least. But now you can breathe a sigh of relief, because a little over a year ago, that changed. NASA conducted what they called a double asteroid redirection test, or DART, where they launched a 1,200-pound spacecraft into an 11 billion pound asteroid that is orbiting an even bigger asteroid. Just to give you a perspective of how ridiculous that is, my four-wheeler weighs about 800 pounds. So the spacecraft weighed about as much as this with a couple adults riding nut to butt on it. And the asteroid, to put that into perspective, weighs just a hair less than the Great Pyramid of Giza. So they drove something about this big into an asteroid the size of a pyramid hurtling through space, which seems like it would be about as effective as trying to demolish a building with a tennis ball. But as it turns out, the people at NASA are smart. Who knew? And they did some maths, and they're like, if we just chuck it fast enough at this thing, I think it'll do the trick. That's what they did. They're like, hey, if we can get this thing traveling pretty close to 4 miles a second, it will have some big bitch slap energy when it hits that asteroid. And they decided, through some more maths, that if they could slow the orbit of this little asteroid around the big one by at least 73 seconds, it would be a success. And as it turns out, their little James Dean machine was a bit of an overachiever. They exceeded their 73-second goal by a half hour. They slowed its orbit down by 32 minutes, which is insane. They were able to get enough kinetic energy out of something half the size of a Civic to drastically affect the trajectory of something 9.2 million times larger than it. In fact, they estimate that the impact released about 10 billion joules of kinetic energy. It's roughly the amount of energy your house consumes in 3 months. So it turns out that the nerds at NASA were more qualified to save us from Armageddon than roughnecks on oil rigs after all. Who would have thunk? And the fact that we can avoid at least one form of the apocalypse by redirecting space rocks of revelation with something smaller than a samurai? Well, that is pretty mind-boggling.